We're Kim and Al. Last year we made some pretty big changes. We retired, sold our house in the city, and moved north to an old farm homestead at the end of its life. Our plan is to build an off-grid home ourselves. This year, with our solar and septic systems completed, as well as basic four-season shelter, we're ready to take on the challenge of building our forever home. We're excited to share our experience as we continue to create this new life on the North River.
Hey folks, welcome to minor project number 5622. Today we're just about to reinforce this post. I basically secure it to the foundation, and as well, while I've got the tools out for this job, they'll also come in handy for installing this floor drain proper. So up to that point I had just a piece of cork in it just to keep debris out of it while we were doing construction. This is a proper P-trap underneath, embedded in the cement when I built this all. So it has water in it to keep sewer gas from getting out, so really don't need to have the cork anymore, other than I just cut it to fit into the pipe. I ran some rebar wire all the way through, around and back up, like in a loop, and that's essentially to cork the pipe, just because I'm going to be using the hammer drill to basically carve out space for this flange, this flare, to sit flush or just a little bit below the level of the floor. Because right now the idea is this fits into the inside of this 3-inch ABS, but if it's going to sit above the floor level, and this whole foundation was poured and kind of contoured to drain from the edges to the middle, that would mean that we would have to have a flood that would get up to about 3/4 of an inch before it would start to drain down over. So obviously not ideal. So now that we're ready for this, I'm going to dig out around it with the hammer drill. Then I'm going to use my little oscillating tool to cut the ABS pipe down a bit, and then I'm going to fit that into place, and likely use some polyurethane caulking, like concrete caulking, just to seal the edge. Once that's done, then I'm going to remove these boards that we have that are just kind of keeping it from sliding when we're doing construction. I'm going to sink these lag bolts, one right about here at the 1/3 mark, through all four of the post boards. And then I'm going to do it from the opposite side at the 1/3 mark on the other side. So I have two lag bolts that are basically skewering all the way through and protruding a little bit at each end. Then I'm going to drill some holes here and here to drive these lag bolts down into the footing. Again, the footing that's poured underneath here is about 1 foot thick, so I'm going to drive these well down into that. And then I have some rebar left over in the tractor tent, and some rebar wire, and I'm going to basically mesh together a reinforcement frame. Then I'll cut some OSB to box it in, and then I'll mix some concrete and pour it all into that. So the idea, and as well, before pouring the concrete, rough up the concrete where I'm going to be pouring on top of. Once you've poured concrete, my understanding is you can't really, like if you pour more concrete on top, it's not going to really adhere. My neighbor Mike, hey Mike, he showed me a product. It's like a latex additive that you can put in, and it kind of helps cement adhere to other cement, but nothing's perfect in that respect, at least not from a structural integrity perspective. But I just don't want it to crack or separate or anything, hence the rebar reinforcement, and then roughing it up a bit to try and get it to adhere well and give it some kind of a regular surface, so that the concrete binds better with that and won't slide side to side or anything. But again, no structural engineer. My objective is not to ensure that this can support like some kind of crazy uplift force and keep it from flying off into space. My understanding is, because all the walls are hurricane tied down to the headers, if the whole roof lifts, we're in the middle of a tornado or something catastrophic. And so I'm not really worried about this having the ability to hold the roof down by itself. It's just simply I want to reinforce it and set it into the foundation, so that, if I accidentally bump something into it, or even if someone like backs their car accidentally into it, that it's not going to like shift over and no longer be providing support to the center beam. So that's what we're up to today. Good times.
It's like we're running in circles, going around every day, getting stuck in the hurdles of yesterday. Don't you wanna go further away from the fray? Let's not get stuck in our worries, we'll make our own way. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet you outside, away from the crowd, just you and me together. We'll all sing better outside, just us in the sky. Part of this circus, is it innate? Feels like a heavy burden, but I can't relate. Do our actions even matter, or is this our fate? At least now I'm feeling better, I know I'm here to stay. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet you outside, away from the crowd, just you and me together. We'll all sing better outside, just us in the sky.
Change it anyway, and you're never alone, never alone. Doesn't matter what they say, doesn't really matter what they do. Let go, baby, let me breathe it now. Let go, breathe it now. Doesn't matter where I go, heart still open, cannot close. Let go, baby, let me breathe it now. Let go, breathe it now. Took my head out of the sand, we're all in it, better. Open your eyes, see the open sky. Don't you know. Shake whatever.
We're working on the bathroom. We have to replace the caulking in it, and there's a couple of other things, long-standing issues that we have to address. So when we first got the trailer, there's a number of I think it was rushed during COVID, we'll chalk it up to that, but a number of imperfections and incomplete items, some more serious than others. One being the bathroom wasn't completely sealed. There was no caulking around the top of the cowling that covers the faucet handles, so water could just get in behind there. Also, not that long ago, we noticed a little bit of water had dripped down from the corner of the trailer inside the enclosure. At first I thought maybe it was from the ceiling that we had a leak, but it was directly under the trailer, and when I came back and looked around in the shower, I saw that behind the surround, where I have that black electrical tape, there is nothing there. I could put my finger in there, no problem, all the way behind. So they didn't seal the actual tub surround to the wall. Because there's such a large space, I'm starting with this, the remainder of this great stuff that we had from the window project. I'm going to spray some in behind where you see that black electrical tape. That's just to protect the wall behind it from getting this stuff on it. Anybody who's worked with this stuff, it's super messy. Anyways, we're going to fill that. Once that's cured, I'll cut the top off of it and I'll use a little bit of caulking to seal it. But in the meantime, while that's curing, I have to remove all the grout from all the existing seals, and then we'll redo it with this stuff that we just picked up today. Good times. So 3.5 plus 1 1/16 is 4 9/16. 4 9/16.
Hi guys.
Oh, hey there.
So this week we got a bunch of stuff done that we've actually wanted to do since we first got out here. So
True.
The bathroom and the kitchen sink, that was an issue pretty early on. We had so many other things going on though. We had to prioritize which was most important. So we just left those because a lot of it was cosmetic. And also we didn't actually realize that the shower was not completely sealed at the top. That was something that we kind of found out once we were in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to prioritize it, but it really is so nice to have it done because it's just, I stare at it all the time and I just hate it so much.
So OCD about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So like as Kim mentioned, there were a number of issues when we first got the trailer, and we were in a huge rush. And to be honest, we're very grateful that there was even inventory and availability at the time. Like, it was right at the height of the pandemic. This trailer was the last on the lot. And then our wait time would have been, I think, August, something like, basically would have been, we would have been out here for 3 months without any real living, we would have been living in tents, essentially. Yeah. It'd be bananas.
Which, oddly enough, we did consider at one point, but then decided against it.
Yeah, and then clearer, saner heads prevailed. Yeah. But yeah, so there were a number of cosmetic things, and I've talked to lots of people, and my mom has a trailer in a trailer park, and a lot of her friends in that, they complain about, quality the kind of quality control these days, as you know, folks tend to say, you know, they don't make it like they used to. But I think because RVs are that, you know, they're banking on people only using them a few weeks of the year. I think there are some corners that are cut. Like I could point out all kinds of brad nail holes that were badly filled that you can see, things that weren't quite measured exactly right, you know, gaps in certain places. The caulking was the worst though, in that there were at least 2 spots where water could infiltrate behind. And like Kim mentioned, we didn't find out about that space behind the whole tub surround until I found some mystery water. Not a lot of it, but I guess just from splashing on top of your head or whatever, it hit the wall and then ran down behind. And enough had done so that it dripped down onto the floor outside. So we filled that in, sealed that up. This is the second time that I had sealed the kitchen sink. The first time I didn't use the right product. Not only did I not use the right product, but I think it was old because there was already clumps. It was like this Flex Seal kind of caulking, but it already had clumps in it, like it had started to cure internally, and it did not go on well, and it just looked crappy and turned quite yellow fairly quickly. So this time around, we scraped all that out and, you know, made sure to start from scratch and put a nice bead of 100% silicone. Looks a lot better.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it will do the job.
Yeah. And part of why we waited too is we do have to let it cure, and this is our only kitchen, that's our only bathroom, and so, you know, when we were in the height of trying to get all of this done, it was not a priority. Like, we just couldn't spend the time on that and let it cure and then have to do different meals and all of that kind of stuff.
When you're at the end of an 8-hour day, 12-hour day, 14-hour day, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know what I'll do now? I'll scrape a bunch of caulking out of a sink and then reseal it for tomorrow. It was just one of those things where it's like, tomorrow, mañana.
And at that point too, there wasn't any water damage, and we didn't think that there was going to be. So, you know, we just thought, we didn't like that they had used clear caulking instead of white caulking, and because there's a skylight in there, it had turned yellow. So, you know, it looks better. We're really pleased with the way that it looks. It looks 1,000 times better, just like new. So,
and the reason it turns yellow, I think, it's the UV light. Like, I think if you have clear caulking and it's exposed to sun, it's gonna yellow relatively quickly, and then it just looks gross. It just looks dirty.
Yeah, but then the other thing was too, Al had to reinforce the
shower pan.
Basin.
When we first got the trailer and I took my first shower in it, when I stepped away from where the handles are, I have enough weight that I separated the pan from the surround. Like, it was just sealed with a bead of caulking, and then they put it together. And then put some supports underneath, but I just about punched through that floor. And I'm not that heavy. So when I took the panel off the front and looked underneath, all they had was about not quite a quarter-inch plywood that only goes underneath part of the basin, and then like a chunk of 2x4 at either end and one in the middle. So if you stepped on either side, it sags, and then if you stepped where the drain was, there was nothing supporting it whatsoever. So I just MacGyvered it and put 2 pieces, like just a kind of a bench, like 3 pieces of wood that supported one across to brace that. And then while we were underneath, actually I had done that earlier, but this time around I cut a couple more pieces of 2x4 and slipped those in underneath the existing plywood. So it's pretty solid now.
You can tell it's a really big difference. I didn't really have as big of a problem as he did when I was in there, but you could feel the slack when you would step in certain areas. So good to have that done too, because we don't, we're going to be in here for a while, so we want to make sure that it's
80 pounds makes a big difference.
So anyway, and then we got that center post finally done, which is just a relief. It's one of those things that's just annoying.
It's been bugging Kimmy.
Yeah, that we knew that we had to do, but again, I actually thought it was going to be a lot messier than it ended up being. But we were able to do a lot of the actual mixing of the cement outside, so it wasn't as dusty as we thought that it would be. So, but the weather is really starting to change, even though we've got a ton of snow up here still.
It's snowing right now too, as we're recording this.
Yeah, but it's noticeably different, and it's gradually getting warmer and warmer. So we are noticing that spring is coming, and we're excited about all of our new jobs, but we do want to get some of these smaller things that we hadn't had the time to do done before we get going on all of that again, because, you know.
Yeah, and the first thing that we're going to do when the weather warms up some more is tackle the roof. We're gonna insulate the ceiling and seal it as a complete air barrier, and then also apply 70 mil poly like PVC membrane to the entire roof, like cover it from corner to corner all the way over and overlap with one continuous membrane, and that will solve any if any issues that we have with water and leaking. Like inevitably, like the way we did that roof, I know it's going to leak sooner or later. It's inevitable. It's just not, we did not do enough to make that a robust solution. We just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So that's our big focus, very first thing, as soon as it's warm enough.
And so it was 3 or 5, I guess, yesterday.
Yep.
And so we do have a little bit of water in the ceiling again, which at least this time we're feeling less stressed out about it, because we do have a plan and we know what we're going to do.
And it's not ton. It's either some small leaks, and now that the ice on top of the roof is melting, it's infiltrating, or again, it's moisture trapped that had frozen to the deck in the really cold days, and now it's thawing and making its way out. But either way, like, we're going to have to take down the vapor barrier, open it up, get the insulation out, make sure that the water is dry, all that good stuff. Then when we seal the roof and everything else, we'll reassemble it and then put in that vapor barrier and caulking seal the whole thing airtight, and then that'll be that. We'll dust our hands.
Yeah. So lots of good stuff to come, but we're really pleased with, you know, our living space, and really feeling good about, you know, the spring and summer is going to look really different this year, and we're just really excited about all the big projects that we have coming up.
I miss the birds and animals.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah. So that's what we're up to, folks.
Yeah, so that's about it. Have a good day, guys.
So.